The galaxy had always been a place of rules. Every species followed the laws set by the Grand Council, a powerful group of alien leaders who had controlled interstellar relations for centuries. Humans were not considered strong or clever enough to be part of this council. Earth was seen as a small, insignificant planet, a blue dot barely worth noticing. Yet humans had a way of surprising everyone, though most species preferred to ignore it. On a quiet morning, in the heart of New York City, a young girl named Leora walked through the streets with her usual curiosity. She had bright, intelligent eyes that seemed to notice everything, even things most people missed. Leora had always been different. She could understand machines in a way others could not. She could see patterns in problems that seemed impossible. But more than that, she had courage, a kind of bravery that made adults both proud and worried at the same time. Far away, in the cold, shining chambers of the Grand Council, a crisis was unfolding. Reports had arrived about a human girl who had interfered with a high-level experiment on a distant space station. The council members were furious. In their view, one human girl should never have dared touch technology beyond her planet's capability. She had broken their laws. For them, this was more than misbehavior. It was a challenge to their authority. They decided that the girl must be eliminated. If humans cannot obey, they cannot be trusted. One council member hissed, his multiple eyes narrowing. Others nodded in agreement. They did not care that she had saved lives on that space station, or that her intentions were pure. The council was focused on control, not morality. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Leora's life continued in normal human ways. She went to school, helped her parents, and dreamed of traveling to the stars. But something had changed. Strange signals appeared on her small, hand-built communicator. It was subtle at first, a flicker here, a sudden sound there, but Leora noticed. She did not yet understand who was watching her, but she felt a sense of danger, a feeling that something powerful was observing her closely. Then, one night her home was surrounded by strange, alien ships that appeared silently above the city. They hovered like shadows, their lights cold and distant. Humans around her screamed and ran, but Leora stayed calm. She had always believed that fear was the first enemy in any challenge. She ran to the street looking for a way out. The ships emitted beams that scanned the city, and she realized these were not explorers, they were hunters. Without warning, the aliens descended. Leora fought with everything she had. Using quick thinking and her knowledge of machines, she managed to hide and disable some of the scanners. For a moment, it seemed she could escape, but the Council's agents were relentless. They were prepared for humans to resist, and their technology was far beyond anything Earth had. As Leora ran through the empty streets, she wondered why the Council was so determined to capture her. She remembered the words of her grandmother, who had once told her, "Humans may be small, but our spirit is bigger than any machine or weapon." At that moment, those words felt real. She had no idea how to stop the Council, but she knew she could not give up. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council made a decision that shocked even some of their own members. "If one human girl cannot be controlled, we will erase them all," one member said coldly. Others debated briefly, but the decision was final. The Council had the power to manipulate technology across entire star systems. They could wipe out communications, erase digital records, and even make planets disappear from maps. For them, it was not a moral question. It was about dominance. Back on Earth, however, humans were not as powerless as the Council believed. In secret, Earth's leaders had been observing the Council for years. They had seen how other planets were slowly taken over, how species were made obedient. Humans had learned to hide, to adapt, and to fight in ways that the Council could never predict. When word reached Earth that the Council intended to erase the planet, a secret plan was immediately activated. Leora did not yet know this. She was still running, her small heart pounding in fear and determination. She had always wanted to do something meaningful in her life, something that mattered. She never imagined it would happen like this, with the entire galaxy watching and her planet in danger. The Council sent their most advanced enforcers to capture her. These beings could move faster than light, could predict human actions, and carried weapons that could destroy entire cities. Yet every time they thought they had Leora cornered, she found a way to slip through their grasp. It was not skill alone that saved her. It was creativity, courage, and the refusal to accept that she was powerless. As the night deepened, Leora reached the outskirts of the city, near the old research facilities abandoned decades ago. She remembered that her father had once shown her secret tunnels beneath the city. Taking a deep breath, she slipped into the shadows and disappeared underground. The council's agents searched above, unaware that the girl they wanted most was already far from their reach. In the chambers of the council, anger grew. "How can one human evade our technology?" one alien cried. "They are supposed to be weak, insignificant, and small. Yet she moves like a shadow, strikes like lightning, and escapes every trap." The council members had underestimated the power of human ingenuity, the kind of thinking that could turn simple tools into powerful weapons. Back underground, Leora discovered a network of forgotten machines, old satellites, abandoned communication arrays, and experimental energy sources. She touched the panels and began understanding how they worked. Though she was only one human girl, she could see patterns the council could not. Every machine had a weakness, every system a way to be used differently. At the same time, Earth's leaders mobilized. Scientists, engineers, and pilots prepared a plan that no council member would expect. They were not strong in the traditional sense, but humans had always been clever. They could turn desperation into strategy, weakness into opportunity. They began broadcasting secret messages to the galaxy, calling on allies, creating diversions, and preparing for a counterattack. Leora realized something extraordinary. Her escape was not just about her life. It was about showing the council that humans could not be erased so easily. Even if she was only one person, her actions could inspire her species. The thought gave her courage. She knew she could not fight alone, but she could survive long enough to give Earth a chance to respond. As the night passed, the first signs of a human counterattack appeared. Small hidden satellites fired signals that confused the council's technology. Hidden defenses activated, protecting cities and civilians from alien scanners. It was the beginning of a battle the council had not predicted. Leora, hiding among the forgotten machines, looked up at the sky. She could see the alien ships hovering, their lights searching, their engines humming ominously. Yet she did not feel fear. She felt a spark of hope. Humans had survived worse challenges before. They had faced threats from nature, from themselves, and even from each other. Now, for the first time in history, the survival of Earth depended on their courage, intelligence, and unity. The Council, in their arrogance, thought this was a simple game. One human girl could be removed and the planet would obey. But they were wrong. They had underestimated the very thing that made humans dangerous: hope, creativity, and the unwillingness to give up even when everything seemed lost. For Leora, the night stretched long. She had no idea what the next hours would bring. She knew only that she had to survive, to move, and to use every skill she had learned. Every choice mattered, every action counted. She was alone but not helpless. And as the first rays of Earth's sun began to touch the city above, Leora felt something she had never felt before. A determination not just to survive, but to fight back. The Council had made a grave mistake. They had assumed that the death of one human girl would be enough to control a species. They did not know that in doing so, they had awakened something powerful. They did not know that Earth, a planet they had dismissed as weak, was ready to strike back in ways they could never predict. And somewhere deep in the hidden tunnels, Leora smiled. She did not yet understand the full plan, but she understood one thing: humans would not be erased. Not by the Council, not by fear, and not by anything in the galaxy. She was only one girl, but one girl could change everything, and that was just the beginning. The Council had expected obedience. They had expected humans to hide, to tremble, and to disappear without a trace. They had not expected strategy, courage, and unity. Across Earth, secret teams of scientists, engineers, and pilots worked tirelessly. Every city, every communication hub, and every hidden satellite became part of a single plan: survival and resistance. Leora emerged from the underground tunnels at dawn. The streets above were quiet, but she could sense movement. Small lights flickered in the distance, signals from Earth's secret defense network. Humans were not powerless. They were ready to fight back, even against a council that had controlled entire star systems. Leora felt hope swell inside her. The first step was communication. Using old satellites and hidden signals, Leora and Earth's engineers broadcasted a message to the galaxy. It was not a plea. It was a warning. The humans of Earth were awake, and they would not be erased. Other planets, which had long suffered under the Council's rules, received the message. Some were afraid, but others were inspired. Humans had shown them something they had almost forgotten: courage. The Council in its chambers reacted with disbelief. One planet, one species, and they dare to fight back? One member shouted, shaking a tentacle in anger. They should have been easy to destroy. They should have been nothing. Yet there was another voice, quieter, almost thoughtful. Perhaps we underestimated them, it said. Perhaps we cannot control what we do not understand. But it was too late for doubts. Across the sky, alien ships hovered over major cities, ready to enforce the Council's will. Their weapons were advanced, capable of destruction on a massive scale. Yet humans had anticipated this. Hidden below the cities, underground energy shields activated, protecting millions of people. The Council's scanners were confused. The ships could not find their targets. Leora moved swiftly through the streets, guiding small teams of volunteers to critical locations. She had learned to read the machines, to predict patterns, and to use simple tools in clever ways. Every trap the Council set was met with creativity and intelligence. Humans were small, but they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was something the Council had never faced before. The first clash came at a major spaceport outside the city. Council enforcers had arrived, their ships descending with deadly precision. But humans had prepared. Small drones, designed and controlled by Earth's engineers, intercepted the ships. They were not powerful individually, but together they could confuse and disable the Council's advanced technology. In the chaos, Leora directed a small team to board one of the Council's ships. It was dangerous, almost impossible, but she had no choice. She needed information, a way to understand the enemy. Using her knowledge of machines, she bypassed security systems and accessed the ship's main controls. She discovered plans, maps, and codes that revealed the Council's weaknesses. With the information secured, Leora returned to Earth. She shared everything with the leaders of the human resistance. Every detail mattered: ship designs, weapon strengths, and even the Council's predictable patterns of behavior. Humans could fight intelligently now. They could turn the Council's power against itself. The Council, sensing that the humans were becoming a real threat, sent reinforcements. Their largest ships appeared in orbit, glowing ominously, bristling with weapons. They believed that overwhelming force would end the rebellion quickly. They had underestimated human determination. The humans of Earth were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting for their right to exist, for their dignity, and for their future. As the alien fleet approached, Earth launched a coordinated counterattack. Hidden satellites disrupted communications. Drones created illusions, making the Council's ships target empty areas. Advanced computer systems, controlled by human engineers, hacked minor systems aboard enemy ships, causing confusion. The Council was powerful, but they were not clever enough to anticipate human ingenuity. Leora, at the heart of the operation, coordinated efforts from a command center hidden deep underground. Her hands flew across screens, directing defenses, guiding teams, and predicting enemy moves. She had become more than a survivor. She had become a leader. And her leadership inspired others. People who had once felt powerless now acted with confidence. They were part of something larger than themselves: the fight for Earth. The first major victory came when a Council ship attempted to land near the capital. Humans had set a trap, using energy grids to disable its engines. The ship crashed without harming a single person. The Council was stunned. How could one species, supposedly weak and insignificant, achieve such results? Encouraged by this victory, humans launched a series of targeted strikes. Using technology the Council had never seen, they disabled multiple ships, blocked reinforcements, and secured key locations. Every step was carefully planned. Every move was precise. Humans were not reckless, they were clever, brave, and united. Leora knew this battle was only the beginning. The Council would not give up easily. They would return with more power, more ships, more force. But humans had something the Council could not destroy: hope, creativity, and determination. Leora's small actions had sparked a movement. Earth was no longer a quiet, overlooked planet. It had become a symbol of resistance across the galaxy. Other species, watching Earth's success, began to rise. Planets that had suffered under the Council's rule started to rebel. The humans of Earth had shown them that even the smallest, Seemingly weakest species could challenge the strongest powers. A wave of courage began to spread through the galaxy, and the Council's control started to weaken. In the heart of the Council's chambers, fear began to grow. Members argued and blamed each other. They had never faced such resistance. Their technology was advanced, but it was not enough to defeat humans and their allies. For the first time in centuries, the Council realized that power alone could not control the galaxy. Leadership, strategy, and unity were as important as weapons. Leora, despite the chaos around her, remained focused. She guided evacuation efforts, ensured civilians were safe, and coordinated attacks. She also began training others to use technology in clever ways. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but that mistake would not be repeated. Every child, every adult, every volunteer became part of the resistance. Every person mattered. One night, as the battle raged in orbit, Leora stood atop a building looking at the stars. Alien ships glowed in the sky. Distant explosions lit the horizon, and Earth's defenders moved like shadows below. She felt exhaustion, but also pride. They had survived the first attacks. They had turned the Council's arrogance into opportunity. The humans of Earth were no longer victims. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Council, frustrated and confused, began to reconsider their approach. They realized that violence alone would not work. The humans were clever, adaptable, and united. The galaxy had seen what humans could do when they refused to accept domination. Slowly, the Council began to retreat, at least temporarily, to regroup. On Earth, celebrations were quiet but meaningful. Cities were damaged, lives had been at risk, but humans had proven something extraordinary. They could fight, resist, and win against impossible odds. Leora was hailed as a hero, not just for surviving, but for inspiring a planet to rise. But she knew the fight was not over. The Council would return. They always returned, yet humans had changed. They had discovered their own strength. They had learned that even one individual, one brave girl, could ignite a revolution. They had learned that courage and intelligence could match technology and power. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would not forget. Humans could not be erased. Leora, looking at the stars once more, felt a new sense of purpose. She knew Earth would continue to face challenges, that the Council would never stop trying to dominate, but she also knew that humans would always rise. They had survived when others believed them weak. They had resisted when others thought them powerless. And they would continue to fight no matter the odds. The galaxy had been watching, and now it knew. Humans were a force of resilience, courage, and brilliance. The Council had tried to erase one girl, but instead they had awakened a planet. A species that once seemed small and insignificant had become a symbol of hope and resistance. And somewhere in the dark corridors of the Council, members whispered in fear, "Humans, they cannot be controlled. They cannot be stopped. And somehow, they are winning." The battle for survival had begun, but for the first time in history, humans were not just surviving. They were leading, inspiring, and shaping the galaxy's future. The blue planet, once overlooked, had become a beacon of hope for all species who longed to live free from fear. And as Leora stood under the brightening sky, she smiled. One human girl had survived. One human girl had inspired millions. And the story of Earth was only beginning.